You know what? If you feel like an insecure person, if you feel just kind of insecure in general, you're not alone. I can tell you, as a psychologist for over 20 years, feeling insecure in either relationships or in terms of your competence or your likability or lovability, this is one of the most common issues that people deal with. And I want you to know that it is also changeable if you're willing to kind of put in the work. And I'll just talk a little bit about what that can include in this video. So, I'm Dr. Seth, clinical psychologist, and I'm going to talk about that today. I want to start by just asking you some questions to kind of prime you, get you thinking about this whole idea of insecurity. Okay. I think a lot of times it is really good questions that actually can make us think, give us an opportunity to self reflect, to take inventory, look closely at some of our beliefs and ask ourselves, wait, what exactly do I believe when I think about it? Sometimes some of our thoughts are so automatic, we don't even realize that we have a certain belief that we're operating from. Okay. So let's start with some questions. Your insecurity. Do you feel in general like your insecurity is just overall, overarching insecurity? Do you feel insecure in most areas of your life? Think about your ability to do work. Think about your ability educationally. Think about who you are in relationships. You can take family relationships, then you can think about maybe in friendships, the role you play in your friendships, who you are with your friends. Romantic relationships, is that an area where you feel secure or insecure? Maybe it is in your appearance, for example, in your weight, in your physical appearance, however attractive you feel or don't feel. Maybe it could be things like how funny you are or how interesting you are. Maybe secretly you're afraid, am I boring? Do people think that I'm an interesting person? There are so many different ways that insecurity can show up in our lives. So once you have identified whether it is kind of more targeted insecurity or overall, that's a big step for you. Okay. Next, ask yourself, what feedback have you gotten? In fact, some of the insecurities that you have there been people in your life who have actually caused you to feel insecure in that way? Maybe family members said things or did things that made you feel insecure in a certain way. Maybe it was a peer group or maybe friends. Did people, peers, give you feedback that kind of created some of these insecurities? Do the insecurities actually come from yourself? Some of the kind of mental beating yourself up that a lot of people are capable of doing. Sometimes it's us. We are responsible for some of the meanest, least sensitive thoughts that a person has. People are capable of mentally beating themselves up in ways that actually just continue and reinforce the insecurities. And that's not something that one can blame on anything else. We do have some control over how we respond to our thoughts. Okay. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a minute. The next question I want to ask is this one. Anybody who has given you negative feedback about the things you're insecure about, anybody who has maybe been critical of you or mean to you, and that's a part of why you feel insecure the way you do, ask yourself this question. Do you believe they were right? Do you believe they were right when they said that or did that? Do you give them credibility when they shared what really is their opinion, their perspective? The next question, did you give them power over how you feel? Today, if you still feel insecure in some ways on a given issue, are you still giving them power? Are you still giving them power over how you feel on this issue today? If so, it's something that you have to look at. and take ownership of, take responsibility for, to say to yourself, whoa, I guess that's true. I am making the choice by still giving them the power to make me feel bad in that way. Okay. Next question. How much longer am I meant to feel bad about this? How much longer? How many more months or years in my life am I meant to continue to carry this insecurity with me? Is this sort of like a curse that I'm just meant to carry my whole life? Was that what I am meant to do, to feel, to carry? Or actually, have I been carrying it too long? Think about it as an enormous weight, an enormous bag that you are carrying over your shoulder that is weighing you down. And yet you're lugging that thing everywhere, everywhere. They're like skeletons, ghosts in the closet, those insecurities. And, they're just still there. They keep popping up, right? You're still carrying them. Are you meant to still carry them? Or have you carried them for too long? And have you, in some ways, co signed on continuing to keep those insecurities alive by continuing to give some of those negative thoughts power over your mood, over how you feel? Okay. I hope these questions have started to get you thinking about a bigger picture when it comes to insecurities. The last question that I want to ask before I get into a technique that I want to mention is this one. Is it possible that other people, that even another person may have felt some of the same insecurities that I feel, but actually gotten better with it, actually improved them? Is it possible that there is someone else out there who has actually improved these insecurities? Do I believe it's possible? Am I open and willing to believe that possibility exists? Even if it's not all people with these insecurities, just someone. Okay. I hope for you that the answer is yes, that you do allow for some psychological flexibility to say it is possible that someone else has had similar insecurities and gotten better, improved. Okay. If that's the case, that you are willing to see that that's possible, you have to ask yourself this: why couldn't you be one of those people? Why would you be different? That another person can improve in that way, but not you? But you are still what? Forced to carry this with you through life for, again, how much longer? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe that's not something that you are meant to do. Maybe if other people can change this too, it is proof that you too can change. And you know what? I can tell you as a psychologist, people get better every day. Too often, people make the mistake of saying that people can't change. That's just helplessness. It's false. It's inaccurate. People sure can change if they're willing to put in the work. Now, I said that I want to talk about a technique, and that's what I want to get to. I want to talk about a mental, or what I would call more technically, a cognitive technique that we can borrow from cognitive behavior therapy. And that's a term called cognitive restructuring. But let me just break it down for you. What it means is, if you have an insecure thought, to look at the thought, examine it, right? Imagine a microscope, okay? And you put your thought under the microscope and look at it. Okay. Let's take an example of a thought that you could have that's insecure, that maybe relates to an insecurity a person could have. And let's say that that is feeling not likable, that people just don't really like you. People aren't interested in you. Maybe it's you don't feel like people seek you out for friendship, or maybe for dating or relationship. So the root issue, let's again put that under the microscope. Okay. Let's identify the trigger, the thought for the insecurity. And that is, people don't really like me. Okay. That's a thought. You're being honest. You're seeing it. Now we can roll up our sleeves and we know what to do with it. We've isolated the problem. Okay. Next, when we talk about cognitive restructuring, we are now going to work on restructuring, changing the structure of the thought, which has everything to do with how we react. We don't want to feel bad. So we are going to restructure that negative automatic thought. Okay. So here's what you can do. You can look at the evidence. Look at the evidence for why you have told yourself that people don't like you. Okay. Next, reframe the thought. Reframe the thought. Maybe people aren't calling me or reaching out because I'm not putting myself in enough situations to meet new people. So, what you're doing is you're taking your reaction, your negative automatic thought, and actually you're taking action. You are doing something. You are engaging in an actual coping technique to say, no, I don't want to feel insecure anymore. I want to be one of those people that has gotten better. Well, it's not going to get better usually just magically, with the snap of a fingers. So, this is an example of the work that you can do, and it's just mental work. But it does take discipline. You do have to catch those thoughts as soon as you have them, because sometimes those thoughts are insidious and they can be very strong. And when you have a negative thought, sometimes it really wants you to believe that that thought is right, but it's not. It's not. That's why we check the evidence, okay? And then we reframe the thought and we look at another possibility. So you can put yourself in situations where actually people can meet you. And also, you go a little bit more out of your way to say hello, to talk to people. Okay. So, the final thing that you can do is you can issue yourself a good coping statement. A good coping statement, basically, think about it like wrapping paper on a present. You wrap it up. You wrap it up. And how you wrap up this issue is to find a coping statement that's like this. It's incorrect to assume that people don't like me when I'm not putting myself out there enough. It's incorrect to assume that people don't like me when I'm not putting myself out there enough. So I will make an effort to put myself out there more, to extend myself more, to connect. Okay. This is an example of the work that you can do. Now, people don't become secure people overnight, but little by little, they can become more secure. And one of the ways to do it is by chipping away at some of those old negative beliefs that have kept you imprisoned into this old insecure mindset. It will require sometimes doing things, healthy things, positive things, putting yourself out there that might make you feel a little uncomfortable, that might not feel easy or natural. But every time you practice something positive, it gets stronger. It gets stronger, easier, and more automatic. All right. I hope this has been helpful. Also, feel free to check out my hundreds of other videos that I have here on my channel, Dr. Seth Psychologist.